This is section 2.2, day 1, simplifying expressions. Today our objective is to simplify algebraic expressions using properties of operation. Let's start with our new vocabulary. A term is a number, a variable, or a combination of numbers and variables. Each term is separated by addition or subtraction. That's how you'll know when one term ends and the next begins. So some examples of terms. It could be a number like -4. It could be a variable like y, or it could be a combination of numbers and variables like 6x. Like terms are terms that have the same variable factors. They have the same variable attached to them. So -2x and 5x are like terms because they both have an x. That means that numbers are also like terms. So like 2 and 7, those are like terms because neither of them has any variable. And a coefficient is the numerical factor of a term with a variable. So quite simply, if my term is 5x, the coefficient is the 5, just the number that's in front of the variable. There's also a couple properties that are important today. The commutative property, a plus b equals b plus a. This basically says it doesn't matter what order you do addition in. The associative property is a plus b plus c equals a plus b plus c. This one basically says that I can group within addition any way I want to and it doesn't change the problem. The distributive property is a little more complicated, and it says that I take a number out front of a sum or difference, and basically I can multiply that number to the first thing and to the second, add those together, and it doesn't change the problem. The next lesson covers the distributive property in more detail. So let's simplify. Step 1 actually comes before we do any of this. Our very first step needs to be to rewrite this as a sum. This -4 has to change. So our 5x plus 9 plus 2x can all stay the same. We have to change the -4 into plus -4. That will make your life a lot easier in the long run. So the next thing we're going to do is identify which parts are like terms. So I'm going to use color coding to do this. We know 5x and 2x are like terms because they both have an x. And our 9 and our -4 are like terms because neither of them has an x. Next, we're going to use the commutative property of addition. This says that I can rewrite my problem to put like terms together. So I'm going to rewrite the 5x and the 2x right next to each other. I'm also going to rewrite the 9 and the -4 next to each other. An extra little step that we're going to do is just group these together. So then the distributive property, we're going to use it in reverse. What do 5x and 2x have in common? They have an x. We have a 5 plus 2 in our parentheses before that. We still have our plus 9 plus -4. That's a 4. There we go. Simplify the coefficient. We can add 5 and 2 together. That makes 7. Our x is still there, plus 9 plus -4, and then simplify. The only thing we can do in simplify, 7x stays the same, plus 9 plus -4 is 5. Our final answer is 7x plus 5. It cannot be simplified from there because 7x and 5 are not like terms. Let's try these ones together. For a, our very first step is going to be to change it to a sum. 2x plus 8 plus 4x plus -5. Now let's identify which terms are like terms. 2x and 4x are like terms. 8 and -5 are like terms. We want to rewrite this so those are next to each other. So 2x plus 4x plus 8 plus -5. Now I take my x out of my 2x and my 4x. I'm left with a 2 plus 4. 8 plus -5 is 3. Add my coefficient, I get 6x plus 3. Now you may be starting to realize that right here, this step could be done in your head. 2x plus 4x just makes 6x. You can mentally add those coefficients. So let's try that one on letter B. Letter B. First, we're going to rewrite our problem. Oops, I'm sorry. I wanted our first step to be changing it into adding a negative. So change our minus into plus negative. 4.2y. Now let's identify our like terms. 6 and 1 are like terms. Well, a v term and a y term aren't like terms, so 6 and 1 are only like terms. We can rewrite it with those two next to each other, or we can just say, I know that 6 plus 1 is 7, plus 7.2v plus negative 4.2y. Since nothing else combines, this is finished. We could also rewrite our plus negative as a minus, and we could write this in any order. So let's look at letter C. We're going to first write our minus as a plus negative. So 10 plus 10r plus negative 5 plus 3 plus r. Now let's identify our like terms, 10r and r. Anytime you see just a variable, just an r, there's an invisible 1 there. So 10r and 1r, when I combine those in my mind, I add the coefficients, 10 plus 1, and I get 11r. Negative 5 plus 3 makes a negative 2. So you can write this as 10r or 11r plus negative 2. I could also write it as 11r minus 2. That's okay too. And remember, we can switch the order, so negative 2 plus 11r also works. So try these three before checking your answer. All right, for the first one, we change it into a sum, so 3y plus negative 6 plus 7y plus negative 4y. Our like terms are 3y, 7y, and negative 4y. When I add those coefficients, I get 6y plus negative 6, or 6y minus 6. For letter B, we're going to change it into a sum, so negative 4x plus negative 4 plus x plus negative 2y plus 7x. Our like terms, negative 4x, x, and 7x, combine to make 4x. My negative 4 does not combine with anything, and my negative 2y does not combine either. I could write each of those plus negatives as a minus if I wanted, and this could be in any order. So for the last one, I rewrite this as plus negative 8x plus 7. My like terms are negative x and negative 8x. Remember, that's a negative 1x, so that makes negative 9x plus 7. Oops. 3 more examples for you to try and then check your answers. For the first one, you should get 5 plus x because 5x minus 4x or 5x plus negative x makes x. You could also have 5 plus 1x. You could have x plus 5, 1x plus 5, any of those. For letter B, when we combine our like terms, we have negative 8x. That turns into a plus negative x and a 4x. So we get negative 5x. Then we have 7y and negative 6y. That's just plus y or plus 1y. And then for C, our like terms are x. That'll turn into a negative 2x, which makes a negative 1x. We have a plus 3y and a negative y, or minus y, which makes a plus 2y. And then we've got our plus 5 not combining with n. Your assignment, guidelines for simplifying expressions. First guideline, rewrite it as a sum. Second thing, only combine like terms. Do not combine things that are not like terms. The third thing to remember, the variable doesn't change, just the coefficient. So 3x minus x doesn't just become 3. That's a common mistake people make. And the fourth reminder is that the sign in front of the number belongs to it. It's like a minus stays with it. It becomes the negative then. So your assignment is worksheet 16.